Hi, I'm Professor Paul Denigris, Program Champion for Digital Video here at the University of Advancing Technology. Once again, we're in the DV studio here at UAT for another one of our Avid tutorials. Before this one, in the last couple of weeks, we've done how to set up your deck, get your DV deck properly configured, how to properly configure your project, and how to capture your footage. So if you haven't looked at those, make sure you go ahead and look at them. If you need to review them, now would be a good time before we get into the next step. Today we're going to be doing basic Avid editing, so just basic assembly editing of picture elements. I've got a project open already. I'm using one of the Avid tutorial projects that we like to use around here called the Eco Challenge. So I'm going to open my Eco Challenge bin, and you're going to see I've got a bunch of different footage in here, and they've all been properly named, which I'm a big fan of. The more organized you can be in your bin, the better your editing process is going to go. So these have all been named according to what's in the in each of these clips. You've got sort of 4 different ways that you can look at stuff in the bin. You've got the brief view, which is going to give you names. It's going to give you your start time code, your duration, stuff like that. You've got your text view, which literally is just text only. You've got your frame view, which can actually give you thumbnails for each of your clips, which is kind of handy. And by default, they're going to be pretty small. You can actually make them larger if you're so inclined by using keyboard shortcuts. We're going to do a lot of keyboard shortcuts today, so you may want to write them down, or maybe we can conveniently put them down on the bottom of the video for you. So our first keyboard shortcut we're going to look at is Control L to make things larger in the bin. So I can actually hit Control L a bunch of times to make all my my thumbnails larger, so I can actually see what I've got here. The problem is it's just kind of like a straight zoom. It doesn't reorganize the clips. So I'm going to hit my right mouse button. I'm going to hit my right mouse button, and I'm going to choose Fill Window, and we'll just reorganize them a little bit. So now I've got them all visible, and so I can see the first frame of each of these clips. Makes it a little easier if you are the kind of person who works better from visuals than from text. The nice thing about Avid, in almost all cases, is there are lots of different ways to do everything, and you're going to find the way that works best for you. The last view is called Script View, and it's kind of a hybrid view where it gives you the thumbnails on the left-hand side, it gives you the clip names, and then it also gives you this handy space for you to write notes. So if you're the kind of editor who needs to make lots of notes for themselves, or you're maybe working as an assistant editor for another editor, and your job may be to go through all the footage and kind of give a summary of what's good in each clip, this would be the place that you do it, right here in the script view. So for me, I'm going to work in the frame view today, and what we're going to start with is just how to get your footage open in your composer window, how to mark your clip, mark the beginning, mark the end of the clip that you want to use, and how to get it down into your timeline for basic editing. So let's just take a look at the very first clip. We'll look at this bicycling clip. I've got a couple of different ways that I can handle navigating through here. The main thing is I can hit the play button, and it's just going to play the footage. And if I hit the play button again, it's going to stop. Okay? A keyboard shortcut that I use pretty frequently when I'm just reviewing footage is the spacebar. Does the same thing. Spacebar plays, spacebar also pauses. Down in the time bar below the footage, you got this little blue line, and the blue line basically indicates where you are. I can click and jump from one spot to another, or I can click and drag through the footage. That's called scrubbing, because it kind of has that back and forth scrubbing motion. That's kind of the name it got assigned way back in the day when video editing started. So we can scrub through the footage, we can go fast or slow. It's really just dependent on how you want to operate your mouse. You've also got fast forward, which skips you to the end, rewind, which skips you to the beginning. You've got step forward 1 frame, step backward 1 frame, step forward 10 frames, step backward 10 frames. So lots of different ways that you can navigate. You've also got these buttons here on either side of the play button, which they look like reverse parentheses, okay? Instead of having parentheses that are like this, they go the other way. On the left side, you've got that shape, and that's the Mark In button. So let me find the first frame of footage that I want to use. I'm going to grab this wide shot of the three cyclists, I'm going to mark it in. So what that is telling Avid is use this clip, but start at this frame. And you'll see on the left side, you got this little sawtooth. And this is kind of a throwback back to the old celluloid editing era where you'd actually have to physically cut your film. And so it just gives you this little serrated edge. It tells you you've made a cut here. Kind of handy and also really comfortable for editors who grew up in the film editing era like I did. So now let's jump to another spot in this clip. And let's say I want to end somewhere right here as these guys are passing me. So something like that. I'm going to mark my out, which is the other reverse parenthesis. Looks like a C. It's on the right side of your play button. So I've marked that, and you can see now I've got my serrated edge little razor cut on the right-hand side, indicating that this is an out. So I've made my first actual trims. I haven't made an edit yet because I haven't put anything in the timeline. To get stuff in the timeline, you've got these two arrows that are centered up on either side of this this little thing that we call the hamburger menu. We call it the hamburger because it kind of looks like two pieces of white bread with a black meat patty in between. Technically, it's called the fast menu, but my Avid teacher out in LA called it the hamburger menu, so I call it the hamburger menu. So pretty much everybody around here calls it the hamburger menu. On either side of the hamburger, you've got these two arrows. One is yellow, and if you hover over it, it says splice in. The other one's red. If you hover over it, it says overwrite. Either one of these is going to work exactly. They're going to be identical. Whichever one you pick, either one of them is going to work for your very first edit. So I'm just going to click splice in, and it's going to drop my first clip, this cyclist clip, down into my timeline. And it automatically, when I did that, it created a sequence. If I hop back over to my bin, you'll see I now have something called untitled sequence.01, and the icon for it is different. Where the master clips are these wide frames, a sequence is a series of 3 little frames. So since I don't like to leave things unnamed or leave things named with the default names that Avid gives us, I'm going to call this PD Eco Edit, just so I have a name for it. All right? Let's go back to this cyclist footage. Let's grab another piece of it because there's this nice tire close-up at the beginning that I want to use. So I'm going to mark another in, mark another out, and splice this next clip in. So we'll just do that real quick. Mark in, mark out, and splice it in. So now I've got 2 clips, and if I play my sequence, you'll see the cyclists start to pass us, and then we go to close-up of the tires. Pretty simple, okay? Let's get some other stuff in here. Let's move on to, let's get some canoeing in here. All right? Time to look at some keyboard shortcuts, because my Avid teacher famously said, and famously because I quote it all the time around here, he said, I can edit with the mouse, but I can make a living as an editor with the keyboard. And that's true because you're much faster. Once you master the keyboard shortcuts, you're going to work a lot faster. So let's start looking at keyboard shortcuts right away. For one, like I said, that spacebar play pause button, that works okay. That works really, really well, but there's a better way. And it's actually this cluster of keys right here, JKL. And what these are is kind of like a jog shuttle wheel on an old VCR. It allows me to navigate quickly around my footage. So with my left hand just hovering on JKL, I can hit L, and it's going to start to play my footage forward. If I hit L twice, it's going to play at double speed. 3 times, triple speed. 4 times, quintuple speed. 150 frames per second. All the way up to 240 frames per second, so 8 times normal speed. Same thing if I hit J. J is going to be backwards. Normal speed, double speed, etc. The more times I hit it, the faster it goes. Okay, so how does K work in this trio? Well, K is pause, right? So I'm playing, I hit K to pause. I'm playing backwards with J, I hit K to pause. Okay, but there's more. If I hold down K and hold down L, I'm now going to scroll forward at 8 frames per second, so slower than normal speed. Same thing, if I hold down K, hold down J, I'm going to roll backwards at 8 frames per second. There's even more. If I hold down K and tap L, I go forward 1 frame. So I can actually get very fine control and find exactly the frame I want. Likewise, hold down K, tap J to go backwards a frame at a time. Right, so that gives you all the functionality, all of these buttons, all this mouse action that I described just before. All of that stuff gets reduced down to 3 fingers. Right? So when I'm editing, I'm pretty much always kind of hovering my hand right over here, my left hand right over here, JKL. The other convenient thing is that directly above JK and L is I and O, which you might have guessed stands for in and out. So let me really quickly find my in point and my out point. And that's pretty much how I edit. I kind of like want to feel the rhythm of the footage. I edit from my gut. I don't sit there and kind of finesse it with the mouse. I'm just really quickly making decisions because I'm using my left hand with the keyboard shortcuts. I'm able to really quickly react on the fly, see the frame that I want to start on, hit it, let it play for a little bit, kind of feel how long I want the clip to be, hit the out point. Okay, so now I've got my marks, I and O, my in point and my out point. And now I'm ready to put it in the timeline.